Hey everybody, welcome back. Zero here with the top 10 games of 2016. Now this is my top 10 games of 2016. And before we get into this list, I got to tell you that 2016 was an amazing year for games. A lot of people can say that 2016 was a shitty year, and 2016 and F 2016 and get 2016 out. But 2016 was a really good year for games. It was amazing. We had some blockbusters come out of nowhere that I never would have expected. And then we had some major titles that we all knew were going to be good, and they delivered. So 2016 can go down as a pretty damn good year in gaming. And it looks like 2017's kind of picking up the pace to be very similar to that. So before we get into the top 10 games, I have a lot of very respectable games that definitely need honorable mentions. There's a couple that probably should be on this list and might have been if I was able to play them and finish them. But because of that, I have to be fair and only use ones that I actually got to play and finish. Now, some of these I didn't get to 100% finish on the channel, so just take this list as my list. Everybody's going to have a list. Everybody's going to have opinions. I think you'll be surprised by some of them, and I think that you will appreciate some of them. All right, so I have a list of honorable mentions that definitely need to be put in there. Final Fantasy 15. The game is amazing. I've only got to play a little bit of it, and I plan on playing a lot more. Maybe on stream throughout the beginning of 2017, but it definitely just on the side. I haven't been able to beat it yet, but it is definitely a game that needs to be checked out. Honorable mention for sure. Also, The Last Guardian. Now, both of these games came out towards the end of the year, and it was during the time that I was really crunched and I was not able to finish a lot of my walkthroughs. So, both of those games, I would imagine, would be on my top 10 list if I was able to finish them out. I haven't even touched The Last Guardian. I've only seen videos of it so far. So, I can tell by people's reaction to it that it's something that definitely needs to be out there. It's something that you need to experience. So, I can't put that on the list, obviously, but it's an honorable mention for sure. Alright, the next honorable mention is ReCore. This was an Xbox One exclusive that came out at a really good price point of $40. And I think that alone gives it the demand of being an honorable mention this year. It took a lot of risk being something that just wasn't out, and I really enjoyed it, and I think a lot of people did. It didn't get the praise from the critics that I think it deserved, but it's definitely should be up there as an honorable mention. 2016 was also the year of remasters and remakes and special editions, and so none of those are going to be on my list. I don't think that's very fair to rehash games that have already had their heyday, but I'm a big fan of remasters, and so definitely honorable mentions for BioShock Collection, for Skyrim, the special edition. Even the Darksiders War Masters edition has been amazing. Those are all great. Resident Evil had an amazing comeback this year with all of the remasters, 4, 5, 6, and then we're going to get 7 at the beginning of 2017. Last but not least, for honorable mentions, is The Division. The Division was a good game, but it lacked a lot of replayability. Once I got to 30 and played around in the Dark Zone a little bit, it seemed like they took a long time. I actually called it like the Destiny effect, where it was a game that it was really fun to play through, but once you got to end game, it left you hanging, and it took them a while to come out with those updates. Now that survival mode is out, I think The Division holds a lot more ground and a lot more merit, and that's why it's an honorable mention. But on survival mode alone, I can't put it in the top 10. But The Division is definitely a game that if you can get for the right price right now is totally worth checking out, and I'm looking to see where they go with it in the future. Alright, number 10 is going to be the exception to the rule for this list. Normally I would never do an expansion for a game of the year, but I think that WoW Legion really stepped up World of Warcraft. It finally brought back the vanilla feel of Warcraft. It really was the best expansion since Wrath, and I know that a lot of people have said that, and it is true. They went back to their roots, they tried new things, and they wholly succeeded. If I had more time this gaming year, I would have played a lot more WoW. World of Warcraft Legion comes in at number 10 because it brought back a franchise that is near and dear to my heart. I am an MMO gamer from way back, and to come into Legion after being out for a while and not even playing Warlords because I was so kind of disappointed with Cataclysm and where it was going that I could not believe the attention to detail, the fun of the questing. This brought back the days of old. WoW Legion is number 10. Gears of War 4 coming in at number 9 on my list. Gears of War 4 brought Gears of War back the same way that WoW Legion did, to a time when Gears was good. This felt so close to the original just in the gameplay. And Gears' gameplay is something that doesn't stray too far away, but for some reason 4, the storyline, the gameplay, everything about 4 made me feel like Gears again. And it could have been that we were itching for another Gears game to come out. But I really liked playing as the young guy and having old Marcus in there. It was a really cool game. The really cool features, the mechanics were solid. I don't think there's anything bad about Gears of War, and so it's number 9 on the list. Coming in at number 8 is Titanfall 2. Titanfall 2 is an amazing first-person shooter, and the fact that they're dropping the price on this down to like $40 and $30 all over the place the last month is insane. This game is amazing. The only problem that I have with Titanfall 2 is it might have been a little bit too little too late. Titanfall 1 came out and it was a mega disappointment. No campaign, stale multiplayer with just a couple of maps. We wanted more. We demanded more, and they brought it. Titanfall 2 was everything that people that liked Titanfall 1's idea wanted and requested, and they came through tenfold. This was not only a spectacular campaign, but the multiplayer, the maps, just everything about it, the additional mechs. Titanfall 2 deserves a lot of praise, and it definitely deserves for people to pick up. The only thing I fear about Titanfall 2 is being a little too late is that it did not sell as good as Titanfall 1, and it might not have the backing and the population to keep those servers running. I hope that I don't find myself in a couple of months running into matchmaking that just takes forever because there's not enough people in the queue, but Titanfall 2 definitely worth a look. Changing gears a little bit is Ratchet and Clank coming in at number 7. Ratchet and Clank was not a remake. It was kind of a redo. And it was mainly based off of the new movie that came out. And so there's a lot of cutscenes in there about that. The thing I love about Ratchet and Clank, not only that it kind of brought back the old PlayStation feel, was that the mechanics and the gameplay are just completely solid. The comedy in it, hilarious. And it tied in really well with having that movie release. A lot of times when they come out with these movie releases, the game is half-assed, and that was not the case with Ratchet and Clank. It almost felt like they made the game and then made the movie based off the game. Ratchet and Clank deserves a spot on top 10, and so it's coming in at number 7. Battlefield 1 coming in at number 6 on my list. Battlefield 1 could have easily been lower on the list. It is an amazing first-person shooter, and it is a spectacular Battlefield game. I couldn't imagine this game being any better than it was. The campaign, the way it was set up, and the way that you live the lives of the different people was so touching, was so emotional. I did not even want to play the multiplayer at first. I only wanted to stick with that campaign. But the multiplayer and the giant battles of Battlefield is like none other. They did an amazing job on this, and kudos to them. It definitely deserves a spot in everybody's library, and I'm throwing it at number 6 on this list. Midway through the list, Firewatch pops up at number 5. Guys, Firewatch is a game that I never expected in 2016. It is one of the games that made 2016 what it was. Firewatch came out of nowhere for me, and when it dropped early in the year, I thought, no way is this going to stand up with all the big titles. Firewatch starts out very slow in 1989 when you're Henry and you just decide to become a fire watchman for the national park in Wyoming. This becomes one of the greatest mystery games of the year, possibly even longer than that. I can't think of a time that I cared more about a character and what was going to happen to him. I can't remember a game, even since Soma, that kept me on the edge of my seat, wanting to know what happened next. His relationship with Delilah, the way that they interacted, the way that this story was told, The fact that Delilah was never seen, yet she was such a prominent character. And the amazing part is that this game was only like 2.5 to 3 hours long. You could play it over and over again. It was priced right, around $20, and you can get it for so cheap right now. If you have not played Firewatch, pick up Firewatch. It is definitely worth having. It is number 5 on my list for a reason. Number 4, Uncharted 4. Now, the only thing I'm probably going to take flack on for this is not having Uncharted 4 further down the list. But I think number 4 is a good spot for it. Uncharted 4 finished up the Nathan Drake saga, and it did it masterfully. Naughty Dog just hits them out of the park. They have the perfect blend of gameplay and storytelling. They make you care about the characters that are with you. They give you characters that have personality and style. Uncharted 4 was a fantastic game. There was very little that I could say, if anything, that was wrong with it. And the only reason that it's on number 4 on this list is because 2016 dropped blockbusters. Uncharted 4 is fantastic. You're going to want to play it. You're going to want to have it in your collection. And the fact that they came out with the Uncharted collection earlier in the year to get you ready for Uncharted 4, there's no better time to pick up all the Uncharted games and break into that series. Uncharted is like my Tomb Raider. It is something that you have to experience. Naughty Dog games are something that you have got to play through at some point. Number 3, Overwatch. Overwatch is a damn masterpiece of a team-based shooter. We can argue all day long of Overwatch only having a multiplayer mode and not being a full game. But I have put more hours into Overwatch this year than any other game that has come out, and any game on this list. I've spent the last month playing Overwatch almost exclusively, and it has put me behind on this channel. Because the competitive mode of Overwatch, the heroes, even the crappy loot boxes that they give you, it is so addicting and it is so fun. And if you can get a couple of friends together to play Overwatch, you're going to have a great time. Now, if you don't have people to play with, I would suggest getting it and playing the quick play. Because competitive mode can be extremely frustrating because it is a intense, competitive, team-based game. But if you have 1 or 2 people and you want to get into the ranked play, it can be an extremely rewarding experience. Overwatch deserves a place on this list. It deserves a place down at the bottom because I cannot tell you a time that I have been so addicted to the gameplay. The mechanics of this game, you can tell Blizzard is behind it. They give it a ton of love. They're constantly updating and making these and working with the heroes. Overwatch is a fantastic game, and it deserves to be in everybody's top 10. The next 2 positions on this list have been extremely hard for me. And I've been going back and forth and back and forth. Which one deserves 2? Which one deserves 1? How can I pick which one of these is my favorite game? Because both of them just came at it hard in 2016. I mean, both of them went all out nonstop. It was very hard, but I finally made up my mind. So here you guys go, the last 2 of the list. These are definitely the best games that came out, in my opinion, in 2016. In at runner-up, Dark Souls 3. And I could not blame anybody for putting this at the top of their list. Dark Souls 3 was a fantastic game, and one that I've played through many times. I got it early in the Japanese version and had it finished and beaten before the US version even came out. I couldn't stop playing this game. Once again, and I was a big fan of Dark Souls 2. I was not somebody that did not like Dark Souls 2. But this brought it back to the feel of Dark Souls 1. It was a little bit more linear, and not so much of, go where you want to go. but the gameplay was solid. It mixed a little bit of Bloodborne with a whole lot of Dark Souls. And I think it just made a classic game that I am going to continue to go back to time and time again. The Ashes of Ariandel came out, and even though it was a short expansion, it was very well put together. And I am so excited for the last and final expansion that's coming out for it. Dark Souls 3 alone is on the list. The expansions I can't include. Dark Souls 3 didn't need the expansion to get into the number 2 slot on this list. It is a great game, and I think it's a really good spot to start if you are new to the Souls series. And that might seem weird, but the way that they've blended the mechanics of Bloodborne and Dark Souls together, this is the ideal way to learn the Souls series, in my opinion. I think if you jumped in on Dark Souls 1, you're going to get your ass handed to you. And I think if you jumped into Dark Souls 2, you wouldn't technically understand what's going on when you get to Dark Souls 3, because the mechanics are a little bit different. They changed some things up. Dark Souls 3 is a good starting place, and it's a good ending place. This definitely deserves a spot on the list. It definitely deserves a spot in everybody's home. Dark Souls 3 is number 2. Doom. Bringing it back. Old school, baby. The Doom guy is here, and he ain't taking shit from nobody. When Bethesda dropped Doom this year, I have never experienced such a throwback to the gaming days of old. I grew up in gaming in the 80s and 90s, and between Wolfenstein, Doom, Duke Nukem, Quake, this was the first-person shooter that I remember. The no-holds-bar, cut the shit, the story doesn't really matter. Get in there, jam some heavy metal, and kill some demons. Now, this game came out with no review copies, and a lot of people, right off the bat, wrote it off. There's no way that they're going to be able to deliver on such a huge franchise name. And the fact that they're not giving out review copies just shows you that technically this game's going to have flaws. But Bethesda said, fuck that, and they dropped it, and it was amazing. Technically flawless, extremely fun, edge of your seat action throughout the entire game. And it is a decent length of game. I think if there was one thing that I could say about the game that maybe needs, that could have maybe broadened it a little bit more for me, was to have a couple more of the bigger boss fights earlier on in the game. They definitely crammed the boss fights right towards the end, which was fine. And I don't think it took away from anything. I think it would have only added a little to maybe put a couple bosses in there. I haven't even touched on the multiplayer, which is fantastic and goes back to the days of like Quake and Unreal Tournament feel. The Doom multiplayer is great, and they've been releasing patches throughout the year for more multiplayer. But for me, the real bones, the meat and bones of this game was the campaign. It was fantastic. I've played it over and over on different difficulties, and it is insane. The first time those Hell Knights drop down, you just shit your pants. I don't know if it's the music, the amazing atmosphere, the fact that it is so fast-paced, you don't have time to know if you should reload or just pull the trigger and spend that last bullet. When a pinky is storming at you, there is nowhere to go. You have to buckle down and whip out your BFG. Guys, Doom was a blockbuster title that right now you can pick up anywhere for on sale. $30. You could probably get it used at GameStop for cheaper. I did not expect Doom to be on this list, and I sure as hell did not expect Doom to be first. But I have got to give it to them. To bring this game out and bring it back and make me feel like a kid again is why Doom is number 1 on my list this year. Alright guys, that is it. I know a lot of you might not agree with me, and I might have been off on some of my points. But this is my list for 2016. I really want to know what your guys' favorite games were. Leave them in the comments. Let me know over on Twitter at zerohillgames. Or send me an email, zerohillgames@gmail.com. Let's get into 2017 together. Let's experience some good games together. And guys, I will see you on the next episode. This is Zero, and I'm out.